You ever wake up one morning and realize you're already in a fight? Just nobody sent you the memo? That was me, that Texas dawn, coffee gone bitter from the dust, standing by my old fence line and watching a silver Mercedes crawl up the drive like it owned the place. Out stepped two guys in navy blazers and a woman in heels sharp enough to slice through cowhide. One of those types who thinks the world's a stage and she's the star, you know what I mean? She flashes this politician's smile and says, "Mr. Drake, I'm Karen Schilling, president of the Willow Ridge Preserve HOA. Can we talk?" Oh, I knew right away where this was headed. She started in on her pitch about expanding our beautiful community and how my southern acreage was the missing piece, offering $1.6 million like it was monopoly money. Told her flat out, this land's not for sale. You'd think that'd be the end, right? But if you've ever dealt with folks like that, you know, they never hear no. They just hear try harder. Next thing I know, there's survey ribbons on my cedar branches, tire tracks that sure as hell aren't mine, a bulldozer edging just over my property line. They hadn't bought an inch, but acted like they owned the whole damn pasture. It was bold. It was sneaky. It was exactly what I expected. So I cut those survey ribbons, tossed them on my workbench, like a dead rattler, and got my drone up to see what else they'd been up to. Sure enough, construction crews were drilling wells on my land, acting like it was some forgotten corner of the HOA. They didn't even bother to hide it. That's when the neighbor, Rick, comes over looking like he's seen a ghost. Says the HOA's talking about annexing my property, just folding it into Willow Ridge. Whether I like it or not. That's not even legal, I tell him. But these people, they don't care about legal. They care about winning. Certified letters start arriving. Thick, expensive paper, full of concerns about noise and future zoning reviews. Basically, a bunch of veiled threats. Next, a couple of HOA volunteers in neon vests try to sneak onto my land, laser rangefinder and all, taking pictures like they're mapping out their next tennis court. I caught them in the act, walked up behind, racked my Remington just to let the sound do the talking. One tripped over his own feet, trying to escape. Sheriff Dan came out, watched my security footage, shook his head, and said, "Karen's got pull in this county. Be ready." Yeah, I was ready. But the smear campaign started next. Facebook posts about gun-wielding landowners, threatening volunteers, classic stuff. And the county zoning office got hit with a stack of proposals from Willow Ridge, all buried with legalese, trying to paint part of my land as historically public trails. Only problem was, my old man shut those down in the 90s. Took me days of digging through the barn archives, but I found the original. Termination contract, county stamped, photos, GPS, the whole 9 yards. Sent it all to my attorney, Travis. Man's got the bite of a scorpion and zero patience for bullies. But Karen doubled down. Sent more people, more surveys, more routine inspections. So I put up a new sign on the fence, private property. Trespassers will be shot. Survivors will be shot again. Classic Texas humor. But the next clipboard crew sure didn't see it that way. Ran back to their SUV like I'd set off a siren. Then came the surprise. A former HOA board member, Brian Chester, reaches out, says he's got proof Karen's been using HOA money for personal gain, funneling it through her real estate agency, cutting side deals before the ink even dried on any zoning papers. Hands me a flash drive full of memos, contracts, emails. My attorney about fell out of his chair, said, "This isn't just dirty, it's illegal." But it was Lacey, a young mom and blogger from inside Willow Ridge, who really lit the fire. She posted everything. Karen's contracts, the HOA's internal scheming, links to my buddy Jules's YouTube video showing the trespassers and drone footage of their dirty work. The story blew up. Board members resigned. Karen's face disappeared from the HOA homepage, and her house went dark. But there was one last push, a formal complaint about livestock feed violations filed with the Department of Agriculture, surprise inspections, even a drone crashing into my pine tree. I mounted the wreckage above the fireplace. Finally, the court date came. I dressed up like I was headed to a funeral, mine or theirs, I wasn't sure. The courthouse was packed, TV crews, nosy neighbors, and Karen sitting there looking like she'd swallowed a lemon. Travis laid out every piece of evidence. The old easement contract, the trespass videos, the internal emails. Brian and Lacey testified. And then Jules queued up a video of Karen herself bragging about the coming seven-figure commission once. I gave up. The judge wasn't having any of it. Slammed her gavel and declared the HOA out of line. Found Karen guilty of predatory conduct. Banned her from HOA leadership for a decade. Referred her for possible criminal fraud. Awarded me damages, legal fees, the works. That number didn't mean much. What mattered was the sound of Karen's power collapsing in real time. You'd think that'd be the end, right? But for weeks, the fallout kept coming. HOA board members quitting, neighbors bringing banana bread, folks from around the county stopping by just to say, hell yeah. Even got invited to speak at the local college. Me, teaching about land rights and how to hold your ground. So here's the thing. If you don't stand up for your boundaries, physical, legal, personal, sooner or later, someone will try to walk all over you. And the more polite you are about telling them no, the louder you gotta say it. My land's still here, the signs are still up. And these days I sleep like a stone, knowing the only thing stronger than a contract is a man willing to defend it. Now, let me ask you, was I right to stand my ground, or should I have just taken the money and walked away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your own stories, where you're watching from, and what you'd do if the system came for you. Let's get a real conversation started about justice, property, and what it means to fight for what's yours. You know, after the dust settled from that courtroom win, I figured things might finally get back to normal, or whatever counts as normal out here. But the thing about a fight like that, it changes you, and it sure as hell changes the way folks look at you. I'd walk into town for a sack of feed, and someone I barely knew would tip their hat, maybe lean in close and say, heard you gave those HOA folks a run for their money. Good on you. A couple of old-timers even dropped by with stories of their own about banks, developers, big city types who tried to outmuscle them and lost. I guess people remember when somebody stands up, even if it's not their fight. But don't think for a second the HOA was done licking their wounds. No, see, power's like a weed out here. It comes back up even after you think you've pulled it for good. A week after the verdict, I caught wind that Karen was quietly shopping her consulting services to other neighborhoods in the county, maybe hoping her reputation hadn't spread as fast as the news. And some of her board buddies were already sniffing around a new housing project, acting like nothing ever happened. Me? I kept my head down and my eyes open. There was work to do, fences to mend, cattle to check, and finally, a sense of real peace riding shotgun. But it's funny, trouble has a way of circling back. One evening, as the sun went down and the fields turned gold, I spotted a strange car pulled up on the shoulder by my south gate. This time it wasn't an SUV or a city truck, just an old sedan, paint faded, but the driver's window rolled down, and a woman about my age stepped out. She introduced herself as Marjorie Hart, said she used to own land across the ridge before Willow Ridge got built up. She had a folder under her arm, thick with old maps, letters, faded Polaroids. Heard what you did in court, she said, voice soft but steady, and figured maybe you'd know what to do about this. Turned out, her folks had lost part of their homestead to a dodgy developer decades back. Easement battles, forged signatures, the works. Sounded like history repeating itself, only with new faces. So I invited her in for coffee, and we spread those papers across my kitchen table. For hours, we pored over deeds, county maps, even old newspaper clippings. And the more we dug, the more it looked like her land had been swallowed up by the same machine that almost took mine. You willing to fight? I asked. She nodded, determined as any rancher I've ever met. Suddenly, it wasn't just my battle anymore. Word got around. Folks who'd never so much as said howdy at the feed store started showing up, asking about records, about lawyers, about how you go about proving where your line ends and someone else's begins. Some had been bullied by their HOAs for having a shed too close to the fence, others for planting the wrong kind of tree. One guy, an Air Force vet named Dale, got fined for flying the wrong flag on his own porch. All those stories, they start to add up, you know? So we got organized. Formed a little group, nothing fancy, just a handful of neighbors tired of being pushed around. We held meetings in my old barn, coffee percolating, maps spread out, the smell of hay and hope in the air. Travis, my attorney, volunteered to hold workshops on property rights, free of charge. Even Jules, the YouTuber, offered to live stream some of the sessions for folks who couldn't make it in person. And wouldn't you know it, those videos got thousands of views, folks from all over, telling us we weren't alone. Somewhere along the way, my ranch started feeling less like a line in the sand and more like a rallying point. We didn't have deep pockets or fancy lawyers, not besides Travis, anyway, but we had the truth, and we had each other. Maybe that's what scared people like Karen the most. Not a man with a shotgun, but a community that refused to be carved up and sold off. Still, it wasn't all wins and high fives. We lost some battles. One neighbor ended up selling. After months of harassment, another just gave up and moved out. Not everyone wants a war on their doorstep, and I get it. But most of us stuck it out, dug in our heels, learned the rules, and played the long game. And you know, something changed in the county after that. The new development proposals slowed down. County officials started reading the fine print a little closer. Even the local paper started running stories about land rights, not just real estate ads. Funny how one stubborn rancher can start a brush fire, huh? Now, I'm not saying it's easy. Sometimes, late at night, I still walk the fence lines with a flashlight and wonder when the next shoe's gonna drop. But I sleep better knowing I didn't roll over, that my old man's land stayed in the family. And my neighbors found their voices too. So, what would you have done in my boots? Would you have fought, or would you have just taken the money and run? Tell me where you're watching from. Share your own story, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to hear more about how ordinary folks are fighting for what's theirs. After all, sometimes the only way to keep your ground is to stand on it, loud, proud, and unmovable. What do you think? Does standing up ever really end? Or is it just the price you pay for calling a piece of land your own? Let's hear your take in the comments.